The maid's uniform was ripped by the millionaire's son. His father's reaction left everyone in tears. Klein, one torn dress revealed the true character of two generations. Maria's hands trembled as she held the remnants of her only work uniform, the navy blue fabric hanging in tatters from her calloused fingers. 23 years she had worked for the Morrison family, 23 years of loyalty and dedication, and now she stood in the marble foyer of their mansion, fighting back tears as the weight of her situation crashed down upon her. The uniform wasn't just clothing, it was her lifeline. Without it, she couldn't work. Without work, she couldn't send money home to her sick mother in Guatemala or pay for her daughter's college textbooks. The $15 it would cost to replace might as well have been $1,500 for someone who sent every spare penny home to family who depended on her sacrifice. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Morrison," Maria whispered to the elegant woman descending the grand staircase. "I don't know how this happened. I was just cleaning Master Derek's room when what?" The sharp voice belonged to Derek Morrison, 22 years old and fresh from another semester of disappointing his parents at an expensive private university. He appeared at the top of the staircase, his designer clothes pristine, his expression one of complete indifference. "When you got in my way. Maybe next time you learn to knock." Maria's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. She had knocked. She had called out. But Derek had been too busy playing his video games with noise-cancelling headphones to hear her. When he'd finally noticed her presence, he had startled and knocked over his energy drink. Then in his surprise and anger, grabbed her uniform and shoved her toward the door. The aged fabric, worn thin from years of washing, had torn completely down the front. "Derek, what exactly happened here?" Patricia Morrison's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to getting answers, but there was a gentleness that had always made Maria feel valued rather than invisible. Derek shrugged, his hands in his pockets. "The help was being clumsy in my room. Not my problem if she can't afford a decent uniform that doesn't fall apart when you touch it." The casual cruelty in his words hit Maria like a physical blow. She had helped raise this boy, had bandaged his scraped knees, had listened to his childhood fears during thunderstorms when his parents were traveling. She had celebrated his achievements and worried about his struggles. To him, she had become nothing more than the help. "I see." Patricia's voice had grown colder. "And did you offer to replace what was damaged?" "Why would I? It's not like it was expensive. Besides, Dad always says people need to take responsibility for their own problems." The sound of heavy footsteps on marble announced the arrival of Thomas Morrison, the family patriarch whose business empire had been built from nothing through decades of 14-hour days and unwavering principles. At 65, his hair was silver, but his presence still commanded any room he entered. He took in the scene before him, Maria clutching her torn uniform, his wife's disapproving expression, and his son's defiant posture. "What's going on here?" His voice was measured, controlled. "Derek jumped in first. The maid's uniform got ripped while she was cleaning my room. She's making a big deal about it instead of just fixing it herself." Thomas looked at Maria, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time in months. He saw the woman who had worked tirelessly for his family, who had never missed a day even when she was clearly unwell, who had stayed late countless times without complaint when they had dinner parties or business associates visiting. He saw the tears she was trying so hard not to shed, the dignity with which she bore his son's dismissive cruelty. "Maria," he said gently, "please tell me exactly what happened." With quiet dignity, Maria recounted the incident, taking no blame from Derek, simply stating the facts. When she finished, Thomas was silent for a long moment, his jaw working as he processed not just the story, but his son's reaction to it. "Derek," Thomas said finally, his voice carrying a weight that made everyone in the room stand straighter. "Do you know what Maria's salary is?" Derek shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know." "Whatever you pay the staff, $300 a week." "Do you know what your monthly allowance is?" "Dad, this answer the question." $2,000. "So in 1 week, you receive nearly twice what Maria earns in a month of hard work. Do you know what she does with her salary?" Derek's confidence was beginning to crack. "I don't know." Thomas walked to where Maria stood, his presence somehow both powerful and protective. "She sends most of it home to care for her elderly mother who needs medication she can't afford. She works extra shifts when available to pay for her daughter's education, her daughter who maintains a 4.0 GPA while working part-time to help with expenses. Maria has been with our family since before you were born, Derek. She has shown us nothing but loyalty, kindness, and dedication." The room was completely silent except for the soft tick of the grandfather clock. Thomas continued, his voice growing stronger. "And when an accident happens, an accident that was your fault according to what I just heard, your response is to dismiss her as the help and declare it not your problem." Derek's face was flushing red. "Dad, I didn't mean a number." Thomas's voice cut through the air like a blade. "You meant exactly what you said. You've been raised with privilege, Derek, but somewhere along the way, you forgot that privilege comes with responsibility. You forgot that every person deserves dignity and respect regardless of their circumstances." Thomas turned to Maria, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "Maria, I owe you an apology. Not just for Derek's behavior, but for mine. I've allowed my son to grow up believing that money makes him superior to others. I failed both of you." He reached into his wallet and pulled out several bills, pressing them into Maria's hands. "This is for a new uniform, and it's also a bonus for 23 years of service that I've never properly acknowledged. But more than that." Thomas walked to his son, placing firm hands on Derek's shoulders. "Derek, you're going to learn what real work means. Starting Monday, you're going to spend your summer working alongside our groundskeeping crew. You'll earn minimum wage, and every penny you make will go toward establishing a fund for our household staff's families for medical emergencies, education expenses, whatever they need." Derek's mouth opened in protest, but Thomas held up a hand. "Furthermore, you're going to personally apologize to Maria, and you're going to mean it, because Maria isn't just our employee, she's part of our family. And family takes care of each other." The silence stretched until Derek, his voice barely audible, said, "Maria, I'm sorry. Really sorry for everything." Maria nodded, tears finally flowing freely down her cheeks. "Apology accepted, Master Derek." "Just Derek," he said quietly. "Please." Thomas looked around at his family, his wife nodding approvingly, his son finally beginning to understand, and Maria, whose grace in the face of disrespect had taught them all a lesson about true nobility. "You know," Thomas said, his voice thick with emotion, "I built this company believing that success meant accumulating wealth and power. But standing here today, I realize that Maria has been more successful than any of us. She's built something far more valuable than money. She's built character. She's shown us what real strength looks like." As the family dispersed, Derek lingered, approaching Maria hesitantly. "Maria, thank you for not giving up on me, even when I didn't deserve it." Maria smiled through her tears, seeing in his eyes the same little boy she had once comforted during storms. "We all deserve second chances, Derek. What matters is what we do with them." In the days that followed, Derek would indeed work alongside the groundskeeping crew, learning not just the value of hard work but the names and stories of every person who helped maintain his family's comfortable life. The staff fund Thomas established would grow to help dozens of families over the years. But perhaps most importantly, A torn uniform had revealed something that no amount of money could buy: the truth that real wealth lies not in what we possess, but in how we treat one another. And sometimes, it takes losing our dignity to remember what dignity actually means.